Anyone else?
So I always, maybe this could be our last question. So what we do here at InSITE is help early stage companies develop their value propositions and their pitches to get early stage funding. And so obviously pitching is something you've done quite a bit of in a lot of different contexts. And I wonder if you have any pearls of wisdom you could share about making a great pitch for a business and value proposition.
And when you're saying pitches, you mean to the financial community,
To the
investment
financial community. That's right.
I think a lot of it boils down to, I think, the team and who's going to be executing. I mean, you can have the greatest business, and a lot of times it comes down to execution. I think the more focused you can be on what is the problem, how are you solving it, what is the vision for the business, if you execute in the near term very, very well, what does the longer term really look like? Beyond that, I think the more you can be sort of concise, articulate, explain the vision, do it enthusiastically so that people are excited as you are. If you go into a room and you could, the best entrepreneurs in my mind are able to make a super boring PowerPoint come alive. Right? If you can't walk in a room and sort of own the room and get everyone really, really excited to the point that people say, you know what, I don't even really remember what that guy was talking about, but like I want to back him. That's when you have a great winning pitch. And I think that it's if you can couple that with a great business idea, which again doesn't need to be a new idea, it just needs to be, why do you think you have a competitive advantage? And part of it could be just your passion. But I think, at the end of the day, people are going to want to invest in businesses more if they know that you're super passionate about it, that you can, you're, especially as the CEO or the leader of a company, you need to lead your people. And sort of at every moment in time, the people that you're talking about your business with are the people that you need to lead. And so if you're talking with angel investors, you need to have them say, like, if I were working at a company, I'd want that guy to be managing me or working with me. And the same thing with financial sponsors, and whether it's early stage or buyout, like you just need to know the person's competent, thoughtful, not gonna, you don't need to have every single question, as I obviously did, and I'm coming up with this on the fly. I don't think you need to have every single answer to every question. It's okay. It's you're not going to be able. There's only 24 hours in a day. You can't come up and think about every single permutation. And so I think the more you can demonstrate to investors that you're thoughtful, and that when someone comes up with an interesting thing that's interesting, and you want to have some time to think about it and distill that, that's great. The thing that turns me off, and I've been doing some angel investing, is, and there have been a handful of people where I meet them and I think the business seems interesting, but you're just not open to advice or opinion or feedback, and it becomes very, very off-putting. And sometimes you make an investment in a company and someone shows incredibly well, and then 6 months later maybe they're in that kind of a situation. I think that's a problem that a lot of times entrepreneurs have when they're operating at the board level, where you've come from an environment where if you think about something, you want to actually get really, you want to roll up your sleeves and get involved in the business, and then somebody comes in who may have a challenge or experience that's very similar to one that you faced, but the people are basically of the mind of, look, we have a mini think tank in our business and we think about this all day long, and so you're not going to really add a whole lot of value to the business. The other thing I think is just be transparent. Deliver, when you're running the business, deliver your good news before you deliver your bad news. Make sure your investors are really on board. And I think that if you go into presentations, and I'm certainly not saying you go in and say, try to be super enthusiastic, get people to buy into your vision and say, but hold on, I want to flag, these are the 5 things that could really go wrong and be disastrous for our business. But you also don't need to hide it, because there are problems in every business. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who ran M&A at a very large internet conglomerate. And I was talking with him and I said, how do you think about buying businesses? Like, what goes through your mind? And he said, here's the process. And I know that it's a business that I've really been thoughtful about. He said, first I hear about the business and I love it. He said, if I don't love it right away, I'm really not going to be interested in it. So first I love it. And then I do a little analytics and I read a little bit about it and I get some of the company's materials and I kind of fall out of love with it and I say, you know what, there's so many problems here and it's really not that interesting and this issue and that issue and that issue. And he said, and then I get to a point where I start to really bucket what the challenges are. And I get some granularity and some structure around them and I say, okay, well, there are these 5 challenges, but with this person that I know or through this technique, I think we can address this and we can potentially mitigate the downside risk because of this, and we can potentially make this a positive instead of a negative. And then he kind of, once he's gone through that and he feels good about that, then he goes forward and he makes the acquisition. And I think often the same thing, whether it's a late stage acquirer like he was, or an early investor or angel investor, is just knowing that you don't necessarily have all the answers, but there are a couple of buckets of prospective challenges that you might face. And this is the way that you're thinking about them. And that way people have comfort that, all right, look, the person doesn't know the answer to every single issue, but they've been thoughtful about the methodology that they developed to actually attack those problems. And that's very confidence inspiring. So anyway, on that note.
Great.
Well, thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
So we have we have a tradition here at InSITE of giving all of our guest speakers a business book, and so you get How the Mighty Fall by
Hopefully it's not an implicit message.
it's more about avoiding that eventually.
Right.
But and so thank you again so much. I think
My
this was-
pleasure. Thanks.
this was
I really
incredibly
enjoyed it.
interesting.
Thanks for the
Yeah.
invitation.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
To Cassidy's.
Yeah.